Well, good morning to everyone out there from all around the world. It was turning out to be a worldwide Prime conference, given the participation from so many people from so many countries, as well as all across the United States. Um, I've got what turned out to be a pretty challenging task of trying to summarize what turned out to be a very rich day at the conference. It began with Rutgers Chancellor Nancy Cantor giving an inspiring talk about how creating a new generation of change makers prepared to commit acts of democracy to tackle our pressing problems and amazing possibilities. She also spoke about how Rutgers Newark is leading that effort through many programs and initiatives to foster inclusive economic development. Then that was followed by a pretty outstanding keynote address by Andy Hoffman, who spoke about how our business and government institutions must change in systemic ways to avoid a dystopian future of collapsing systems, but rather move toward a utopian future of enlightenment. He spoke about how we need to deeply re examine capitalism and about how we need to fundamentally shift business education. Among his key points was bringing back an ethos of of management as a calling and closing a moral gap, rebuilding the aspirational principles into our curriculum. He spoke of shifting to wisdom, to discarding and training our students as stewards of the market, discarding misguided metrics and models, and more fully moving to those that more fully account for the many important effects that business has on our social and natural environment. That was followed by Yehuda Klein, John Paul, and Hildegard Link, who tackled the critical but very thorny problem of how to value ecosystem services to operationalize our sustainability indicators, and gave an example of how the SASB accounting methods were trying to do that. Then our cross-sector executive panelists, Kate Lawrence from Jersey City's Office of Sustainability, Renuka Gotti, Becton Dickinson's Global Health Vice President, and Terrence Blackwell of Crimes Services, talked about the public and private sector skills that were going to be needed to tackle our sustainability related problems, emphasizing nimbleness, creativity, and collaboration. There was then a presentation by some of my colleagues from Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey, Gerard Frias, Isabella Crissa, joined by our colleague, Professor Christine Frias from the CUNY New York system. They spoke about throwing off the yoke of neoclassical economics, which is created a dominance of financial goals over all else in organizations, narrowing our focus of corporate sustainability in such a way that it drives out all considerations of externalities in the impacts of business in the world. Instead, we need to widen that focus of corporate sustainability thinking to a social and planetary level and to doing zero harm. Then Tom Bryant gave us a quite insightful comparison of the sustainability content of an MBA foundations course at Concordia University in Canada with a Master's of Business and Science capstone course at Rutgers University in New Jersey. He very reassuringly spoke of how at both those colleges he was encountering widespread student interest and caring in these issues. And he spoke about how we needed, to be effective with these students, needed concrete cases, tools, and examples. Then we had a talk from Ricky Abzug of Ramapo College in New Jersey, who spoke about how to introduce the very timely SDG 3 goals of health and well-being into our classrooms and our business schools. And then Eben Goodstein of Bard College in New York City talked about a very exciting and potentially high impact initiative that they're doing to mobilize educators from around the world for coordinated climate education. He spoke about how they're going to be holding on April 7th, mark that day down, a series of university-hosted webinars at 100 locations, 50 in the US and 50 in countries all around the world, to engage 100,000 students in searching for ambitious climate solutions. I think the contact can be, well, he suggested that you look on the BARD website, Barb University website, for more details about the program. And you can use hashtag #MakeClimateAClass, which I'll put into the chat afterward. Then for those who missed a talk about Nigerian universities and sustainability in Nigerian universities, be reassured that we'll be posting that presentation on our Rutgers website for the conference. I understand that'll take a couple of weeks. Finally, we had two colleagues from the Coast Guard Academy talking about a newly created elective that they had introduced into the curriculum for training the future officers in the U.S. Coast Guard. Gina, would you like to speak a little bit about today's upcoming events?
Sure. Thank you, Joel, and welcome everyone. Joel was just describing all that was just yesterday, amazingly. Today is day 3, and the conference is just getting amazing participation. We have over 1,000 people, 1,031 signed up on the Int'l app. So today for day 3, you can follow the schedule. I'll just briefly summarize what's going on. So Joel just gave you a review of yesterday. And after I finish, I'm going to have the pleasure to introduce Liz Collier, who is the head of Prime for North America. Immediately after that, we're going to introduce our keynote speaker, James Corwell, who I believe you can see. And he is the chairman and founder of BlueDot International and co-founder of Farm to Plate USA. And he is amazing. And he's going to talk about the 12 billion global mission and the future of food and planted earth. And as many of you may be aware, if not, please check it out. We are doing a Meatless Mondays movement to help save the planet this conference. Right after that, we're going to have a presentation by several professors from Rowan University on how to cultivate the sustainability mindset across campus, a cross-disciplinary panel discussion. Then following that, we have several concurrent sessions. The first one is with Arash Azadagan from Rutgers University, professor, along with panelists from a number of other organizations talking about the UN SDGs and sustainable innovation, exploring ways forward for practice and academia. Simultaneous with that, in room B, we are having a presentation by Gail Britton for SDG 5 on gender equity, calling all women girls, including transgender. And that's going to be a fascinating presentation from 11:15 to 12:15. Those are concurrent. As we said, we will be posting all the recordings. So if you miss one, you can check it out when we post the recordings. From 12:20 to 1:15, we're going to have 2 additional concurrent sessions. The first one, again, by my colleague Arturo Osorio Fernandez from Rutgers Business School, and his partner from the University of Guelph, Maria Corradini, talking about managing growing ventures and a service learning experience of sustainable transformation. Simultaneously, we'll be having a second very different presentation on inner engineering, existential intelligence, and the business of inclusive well-being by Tracy Chang, also from Rutgers. At 1:20 to 2:20, we have 2 concurrents. The first one moderated by another colleague of mine from Rutgers Business School, Carmen Bonilla. And it's going to be on careers and sustainability, insights from professionals. It has panelists Michael Bizdak from Johnson & Johnson, Lax Natarajan from Marsh & McLennan, and Eben Goodstein from Bard College. Simultaneously, Dr. Enrique Nunez from Ramapo College will be talking about integrating sustainability into a strategy course, life cycle assessment of the beauty and personal care industry, followed immediately by a second presentation by him on sustainable fashion, revitalizing an exhausted industry model. From 2:25 to 3:25, we have another presentation by Rachel Schwam from Rutgers University and a student of hers, Molly Pasacantando, talking about student greenhouse gas solutions and being a part of the solution. From 3:30 to 4:30, we have two presentations, one from Neil Boyd and Eric Martin from Bucknell University, talking about scaffolding and chaining SDG integration in the Freeman College of Management at Bucknell University. And at the same time, we have a presentation from 3:30 to 4 from Brazil. Do Brazilian business schools prepare future financial executives to account for sustainable development goals? With several of our colleagues from Brazil. And then from 4 to 4:30, we have another presentation from Brazil on responsible management education in the heart of the Amazon forest, an active learning methodology proposal. To cap off the day, we have an amazing student panel on manifesting the next generation of sustainability in education and the world, moderated by Ashwani Vasith, who heads the New Jersey Higher Education Partnership for Sustainability. We have panelists from Princeton University, Rowan, FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson University, and Rutgers. And then to close out the day, we have a social hour from 5:45 to 6:30, moderated by Prul Jain from Rutgers and Gerard Farias from Fairleigh Dickinson University. Whew, that's all today. So after today, we have another exciting day for Joe. And I see our colleague Valerie has joined us. One moment, I'm going to now introduce, well, I have to say a few housekeeping remarks, and then I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Collier and then James Corwell. So, couple of housekeeping housekeeping points in case you weren't able to be with us yesterday. We're doing the entire conference on the Int'l app. I assume most of you are on there, and I just want to let you know, if you click on the schedule, you'll see all 4 days. You can click on any particular session and learn more about it. You can bookmark it. All the speakers are listed with their bios under speakers. Select My Event to pick these sessions you want to attend, and then you just click on there. You can send messages to people. As a reminder, this is a webinar we're doing right now, and we'd like you to put your questions and your questions in the Q&A. And you can also chat to your heart's content. After each session, please go to the session and put 5 stars. We recommend 5 stars, but that's up to you. And after the conference, we're going to do a full feedback survey, which will go out Thursday afternoon, because we definitely want your feedback. If you have a technical problem, do not contact me. You can contact Zoom directly or send an email, and we will respond. Okay. Now let me introduce Elizabeth Collier. She goes by Liz. I had the great pleasure to meet her at Cleveland last year at another conference, Prime Conference. She is chair of the North America chapter of the UN Principles for Responsible Management Education and a professor at Dominican University. Liz Collier, PhD, as I said, is chair and also is professor and Christopher Chair of Business Ethics at the Brennan School of Business at Dominican University, which is located in River Forest, Illinois. She's also an editor of the Journal of Religion and Business Ethics. So at this point, I'm going to turn over to Liz. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks to Gina and then the Northeast Planning Committee just to give me a few minutes to update you on what's going on in the chapter and ways that you can get involved going forward. As you may or may not know, the chapter has officially been in existence since 2014. And over the last 6 years, what we have excelled at is amazing conferences sort of scattered throughout the chapter in the US and Canada geographically that have really pulled together both what's going on regionally in that area, historically, culturally, and then how entrepreneurship, corporations, collaboration with nonprofits, sometimes local government. They're just robust, energizing ways of working with colleagues, as you're finding at this Northeast conference. So the conferences have gone really well. The North America chapter has provided a lot of leadership during the transitions at the secretariat level over the past 2 years with feedback and organizing and brainstorming. There's also a lot of leadership in the champions group, as well as the prime working groups at the global level. On the local levels, there's an incredible amount of research, pedagogical innovation, relationship building with global compact signatories, and local networks of businesses, student engagement, and really what you're seeing at this conference here in the Northeast is going on in a more dispersed way throughout the rest of the chapter. There's a steering committee right now of 6 of us. In addition to me, Ramina Dalla, who's at the Gordon Lang School of Business and Economics at the University of Guelph, is the vice chair. Kathy Dubois at Kent State, Janet Hale at Texas State University, Margaret McKee at the Sobey School of Business at St. Mary's in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Heather Ranson at the Center for Sustainable Innovation at the Gustafson School of Business at the University of Victoria. The 6 of us are working now to get things in place so that next month when the Global Prime Board meets and makes a final decision on governance, the 6 of us are going to be revising our governance documents and then working to set up a lot more infrastructure throughout the chapter in order to systematize things and provide an opportunity for more local leadership to bubble up to the chapter level. One of our main initiatives is going to be to sub-regionalize the chapter such that we can have robust engagement similar to what the Northeast has, but throughout the rest of the chapter. So what we're going to be doing is looking for people who would like to work on networking their particular regions and creating more of a situation like what the Northeast has. If you're interested in working with scholars, teachers, or others in your particular region, if you want to contact me, my contact information is on the Prime website under the North America chapter, and we'll be happy to begin working with you on what would be most appropriate for your particular area. In addition to that, we're creating a new website that will hopefully be up at the beginning of next year, and it will be PRMENA.org. We have a LinkedIn site, and also the Secretariat updated all of their mailing lists over the summer and provided us with that information. What we have right now are just people who are contact informations regarding SIP reports or institutions. So again, if you would like to be on that mailing list, you could send me an email and I'll make sure that we get on there. And finally, a number of us are working on a book chapter that the Prime Secretariat is putting together. So Gina's working on describing what the Northeast does so we can create that more as a template for other areas of the chapter. And then other people who have hosted conferences in the past are talking about the ways in which these cultural sort of regional rootedness relates to then the Prime initiatives in their particular area. So that's going to be out, I think, at the beginning of the year. So the takeaways are that there's a lot going on, there's a lot of energy, a lot of innovation, and we're hoping to more systematize and make that accessible to people. So please feel free to send me an email if there's something that you're particularly interested in. We have people working on governance issues, teaching and learning resources, a conference hopefully for 2022, and a lot of other things. So there's plenty of opportunity to collaborate if you want research collaboration or you need help introducing things into your courses. And we'd also like to create an initiative with junior faculty to, again, create a pipeline where this is really a part of what people are doing every day in their academic lives. So good luck with the rest of the day. There's so much going on. This is really an inspiring, positive thing for us to add during this difficult time globally. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to hearing from those of you who would like some help with networking. Thanks, Gina.
Great, thank you so much, Liz. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Valerie Bendish, and she's going to introduce our keynote speaker, James Corwell.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Bendish. I am the founder of VVPR, and we do philanthropic public relations. I have the honor of doing the public relations for this Prime conference, which has been a great honor. And I'm also the founder of another company called Valerie's. We're working on vegan, plant-based food. So some exciting initiatives that are in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. We're very passionate about it. So I'm happy to be here with you all today and looking forward to the rest of the conference. Today, I have the honor of introducing Master Chef James Corwell. James is our next keynote speaker. He is he's one of 70 master chefs in the United States. So it's a huge honor. He's a James Beard Award winner. In 2010, James won the Best New Restaurant. And today he's leading in innovation with vegan and vegetarian initiatives. Very in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. We're honored to have him here today. He's very passionate and, again, an innovator in the space of new ways for life on land, life on water to be really imperative in everything that we do. So we're happy to have him here with us today. And again, it's a great honor. Please help me welcome James Corwell.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here speaking to the Prime event and everyone all over the world and here in the US. It's a tremendous honor. It's great to be here. You know, we're here to talk about sustainability and the future of food and where all this is going and to kind of get it all going. I've recorded a small video for everybody to see. And after that, we can all get back together and hopefully answer a few questions and have a quick discussion about what you've seen there. So Max, if you don't mind. Hello, and thank you to Meatless Mondays and the United Nations for having me here today to give you the perspective of a certified master chef. You see, sustainability, the future of food, how we got here, where we came from, is important to all chefs, but especially me. I believe in being the change you want to see. That is why I created plant-based alternatives to raw tuna using tomatoes and plant-based alternatives to barbecued eel using eggplant. That's why I've been solving some of the problems associated with food deserts by creating plant-based alternatives that are affordable, nutritious, and sustainable for those who can't afford good, healthy food. It's been a mission of mine for quite some time. My cooking experience spans 35 years. I've seen food go from good to bad to a little bit better. I can teach you all to cook beautiful food. But the question is, will we be able to cook food the way I learned how to cook in the future, in the next 20, 30, 50 years? I think not. You see, I used to have the best restaurant in New Orleans. I was voted the best new chef in New Orleans. So as being a master with the best chef, best restaurant, I needed to serve the best food. But something really devastating happened. I developed cancer.
That? Are you kidding
And it
me?
wasn't just any old type
Wait,
of
what?
cancer. My cancer could have taken away my sense of taste, but more importantly, it could have taken away my ability to call out orders to other chefs. Fortunately, I recovered. I don't know about the other chefs, but the doctors told me that my type of cancer was very rare, that it was an act of God, and that it just wasn't something that somebody like me should have gotten. But upon discovery, I learned that this type of cancer was something that was unique to another stereotype, and it was communities that were mostly impoverished, poor, and malnutrition. It was a cancer based on malnutrition. How could this be? How could this be that as the best chef with the best restaurant have a disease that was based on malnutrition? I was buying the best food money could buy. It just defied logic, and it deserved looking into. And it turns out, no matter how hard I looked, I could not find a clean source of food. No matter how much money I spent, the beef was ripe with antibiotics and hormones. The fish was full of mercury, microplastics, and industrial waste. The vegetables, yes, we could get some locally, primarily have been out of the ground for months at a time. And this was not the food industry I wanted to be a part of. This was the food industry that was creating my disease. This was the food industry that I was trapped in, and I wanted to make a change. You see, food can be poison in my case, and in many of our cases, or it can be medicine. And you can see that in all the health and wellness movements today. You can just look around and we can see that we want a healthier lifestyle. We're getting older, we're an aging population globally. We want to avoid lifestyle diseases. That's cancer, obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and depression. These are all diseases that you can ratchet up with a poor diet, or you can ratchet them down with a good diet. You see, we want to live healthy lives, and so consuming less of the bad stuff, less hormones, less antibiotics, less mercury, less microplastics, less of all this bad stuff, we can live healthier lives. And that's what's in meat, that's what's in our fish, less so in our vegetables. You see, it used to be that we would have to run down our meat. We'd have to run it down and throw a spear at it or hit it with a rock. And we'd take that animal back and we'd feed it to a community, and we were all fed for a day. But that didn't happen all the time. And so to bridge these times of no meat, we ate more vegetables. And we lived healthy lives. We evolved as a culture, as a human race, eating more plants. It is only since the Industrial Revolution that people have been able to consume so much meat, 3 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Before the Industrial Revolution, meat was expensive, very rare. Since the Industrial Revolution, that's arguably America's greatest strength. We're able to produce a lot of anything, but especially food, at a very affordable and inexpensive price. So it's become the mainstay of our meals. But if you look at the advent and consumption of meat, so we've learned about the advent of lifestyle diseases. So has America's greatest strength now become America's greatest weakness? In many cases it has. But in the near future, we still need to be able to produce a lot of food. But we have a moral obligation to produce healthy food, to feed the coming generations. We need to be able to produce a lot of food efficiently and affordably and healthfully to feed everybody and end hunger. The good news is that there are a lot of examples in history that show us doing exactly this. Three cultures I like to reference are the Hindu cultures of India, Asian cultures, and the pre-Columbian Aztec culture as well. These are all civilizations that grew to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people over the course of thousands and thousands of years in areas where there was not enough animal protein to support them. And how did they do that? They did that through the combination of plants and plant protein. They lived in harmony with the land. They used their natural resources in an efficient way, and they flourished because of it. So that's the good news, is we've done it before. That's more normal to us than what we've experienced in the last 100 years. Everything is starting to come back full circle. So what does this mean for us all today? You see, in my lifetime, the Earth's population has doubled. Now, roughly 7.5 billion people. By 2030, 9 billion people. By 2050, 10 billion people. And in a short 80 years from now, 2100, 12 billion people will be on this planet. We need a unifying target. We need to be able to all pull together on what it means to have the systems in place, the thought processes in place, the legislation in place for what it means to feed 12 billion people in a short 80 years from now. The global mission to feed 12 billion people is a unifying effort, taking the tenets of the United Nations and with the efforts of companies like Meatless Mondays, like BlueDot International. We want to bring together the best efforts, the best minds, the best solutions to a common goal that I think is very doable. We need to have green food, we need to have innovation, we need to have efficiencies so that we can feed 12 billion people. And the great news is we're already on that track. Because let's face it, we need to be able to do this. Individuals and industries and governments alike need to hear the message loud and clear. We are demanding greener foods, greener industries, and affordable food for everybody so that we can end world hunger. You see, as population increases, so does demand on our natural resources. We need clean water, we need great farmland, and we need clean air to breathe. Our current food industry does not support this. As population increases, it becomes even more important to have clean food, clean air, clean water. See, right now it's highly inefficient. It takes 14 pounds of grain to raise 1 pound of beef. It takes almost 1,000 gallons of water to bring that pound of beef to market. But when you start to have more demands on your natural resources, your limited natural resources, when LA grows by another 4 million people and demand more water from the Colorado River, what does that do to the amount of water that you can divert to ranchers? It makes it harder and harder to justify. It's going to make the prices go up. So simple supply and demand. When there's more demand, same supply, price goes up. So when meat starts to reflect the true costs of water and grain and those inefficiencies and the impact to the environment on top of that, it will get too expensive for most of us to afford. You see, our natural resources really need to start being considered as our national treasures. They are unique to each and every country. They need to be protected and valued as such so that we can have strong internal communities and populations that are well cared for. Some countries aren't that lucky, and they will have to go to a global market to pay the highest price for sustenance for their people. We want to avoid that. Every country in the world wants to avoid that at all costs. Again, we need to look at our natural resources as national treasures, because without them, we are very, very vulnerable. Like every chef, I believe it is our moral obligation to feed everybody. And that means ending world hunger. The global mission to feed 12 billion people is very achievable. It just will take time, will take focus, and will take the efforts of individuals, industries, and governments alike. The change is already happening. You can see it. You can see it in my lifetime. You know, I like to describe the food landscape as like the energy landscape of the 1970s. Back then, that landscape was primarily dominated between coal and gas. Fast forward 50 years, and you still have coal and gas, but that pie chart has been divvied up between bio, solar, electric, wind, and it's still changing today. The food landscape is very similar. When I came on board, you know, that food landscape was heavily dominated with commodity fish, meat, dairy. But now you see more plant-based. You see cell agriculture. You see organics and a plethora of other things. And it will continue to change as we move forward. These are green industries that I'm talking about. So for these reasons, I'm very optimistic. The change is already happening. We're getting greener foods, greener industries, more innovation. We're being more efficient with our natural resources. And this change will continue by pushing for health and wellness, by combining green food industries and innovations. We're already on the path to ending world hunger, which is the goal here. We can all contribute to this goal just by taking better care of ourselves. What a great idea. Health and wellness is pushing green industries. Green industries are pushing for more efficiency. And more efficiencies take care of our natural resources so that we're able to feed more and more people. That's the goal, right? Let's end world hunger. We're already on the path. Let's just own it. Let's own it through the 12 billion global mission to end world hunger. You see, in the grocery store of the future, this is the fun part, we're still going to have meat. We're still going to, but only a few people will be able to afford it. It's how my career started, cooking for kings and queens. It's going to go back to that. Because it'll be so expensive because of how much water it uses, the rarity of the fish in the ocean, if it still exists, you know, will be very expensive. Most people will not be able to afford it. In the middle tier will be cellular agriculture. And that's much more efficient and less impactful on our environment. So if you have to have some meat, so be it. But at the bottom of the pyramid, and consequently the broadest segment of the market, of the grocery store, you'll find plant-based because it's the most versatile, it's the most cost-effective and affordable. And what I love about it is that it's the healthiest. The future does look bright. We just need to understand what that roadmap looks like. And rightfully so, it should. Will we be able to cook the way I learned to cook in the future? Many of us, no, not at all. But the future looks bright. We're going to learn to cook differently. We're going to learn to cook how these other ancient cultures did. We will learn to appreciate our natural resources and value them as national treasures. We will value our health, and we will value other people's health. It's in our DNA to take care of one another. A human baby wouldn't survive if it didn't have parents to take care of it. At what point did we decide that this human is too large to care about? See, I don't think it expires. I think we care about people regardless of where they are in life, where they live. We have an obligation to do what's right and to move the ball forward to make these solutions to end world hunger. Help me in supporting the global mission to feed 12 billion people, Meatless Mondays, BlueDot International, and others that are on this same track. And if you need help, we are here to help offer guidance, whether it's messaging, product development, simple ideas, or camaraderie. We are here to help. Join me in the 12 billion global mission to end world hunger, and we can do it together. Thank you.
All right. Can everybody?
That was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for my video debut there. And for lack of a better message, there's a lot of there to a lot of things to touch on. But basically, just to kind of surmise it, is we have a lot of parts that we can connect, whether it be health and wellness, whether it be any number of movements, any number of good causes. Really, these all kind of need to come together to a single goal. And in the culinary world, we make pesto, and we all love pesto, right? But it's made of lots of different ingredients: basil, garlic, Parmesan cheese, olive oil. And each one by themselves is a worthy ingredient. But if we combine them all together and blend it so well, it makes its own wonderful, even more wonderful ingredient. And that's what I'm trying to do here is bring together all the voices into one giant knot that kind of brings us towards this global mission to feed 12 billion people.
That's fantastic. Are you ready to take some questions?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay, wonderful. Everybody, I want to remind you to put your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat, so that way we can find them. So the first question from William Russell, who happens to be the co-author of my book, shameless plug there. He says, I would like to know James' thoughts on the use of insect proteins as another source of food.
Oh, I think it's definitely a valid protein source. I think we need to do some serious marketing behind it. Maybe we call it morning glory protein or something like that. We need to get people used to the thought of eating insects. Highly efficient use of natural resources, great yield on protein. About a pound of food yields about 2 pounds of protein. So it's highly efficient and it's very versatile. You can make pasta out of it, cookies out of it, any kind of meat alternatives out of it. So I think there's a bright future for it. Again, it's what does that pie shape look like? We're still going to have meat and fish and dairy, but those things are going to get divvied up into plant-based, insect, any number of other alternative proteins. So I think it's got a bright future.
Great. I totally remember the scene from Lion King when they were eating those insects. All right. We have a question from Gerard Farias from Fairleigh Dickinson University. Would you speak about food waste, also processed foods? This is becoming a trend in countries like India. What about the role of big food companies? Are they becoming part of the solution, or are they continuing to be the problem?
So it's a lot there. Food waste. So the food industry accounts for roughly 30% of our global emissions. And out of that, about 30% of our food is wasted on a global scale. So food waste is a huge problem. And we need innovation. We need innovation. We need serious innovation. Innovation to tackle these problems. So whether it's consumer perception, that's, leaving ugly vegetables in the fields, or we're just not getting it to the right people because the markets aren't right. We've got to change this. We've got to be able to put in some mechanisms, some simple, thoughtful mechanisms that gets leftover food out to people who need it the most. I don't see it as a daunting issue. I just see it as an implementation issue. We just need to implement it. I think there are ways of doing it. Processed foods. Processed foods are still going to be around for quite some time. By 2050, 2/3 of the world will live in urban settings. And as such, they're going to be working 9 to 5, if not 2 jobs. And so grab and go food is going to become even a bigger part of our food industry than it already is. It just needs to be healthful, right? So, I like to default on the falafel sandwich, how great that is, or grab and go sushi. More of that will need to happen, but it'll need to be healthful, cost effective, and again, convenient. And then the last one, what was the last part of that question?
About the role of big food companies. Are they becoming part of the solution, or are they continuing to be the problem?
Sure. So they're continuing to be the problem, but they're facing their own problems. They're facing their own problems in that they could calculate how much meat they need to grow to feed 10 billion people. They've already done it. But now they're factoring in how much it costs in water, how much grain they'll need. And then they're pushing for the legislation in Congress to back that up. Well, what's going to happen to the rest of the country is we're going to run into real concerns about the quality of our natural resources and the availability of water. And there will come a point in time where we will, as a society, have to make real decisions on, does this water go to feed animals, or does this water go to feed humans? And when we start having to face these types of concerns with our natural resources, that's when you're going to see the subsidies go away and the real cost of meat start to factor in. So again, efficiencies and economies will start to drive what industries do. As water and as grain becomes more important, more valuable, it will make meat less and less affordable for more people. Industries will naturally gravitate towards more efficient food production, which is plant-based.
Great. Well, this is really business focused, this conference. So that's a call to action by the students and faculty to address those issues. I have a question, and that is, in 1981, I went down to Costa Rica and for a big conference when they established the University for Peace. And I toured all over, and they were doing amazing advanced sustainable agricultural things. And that made me think there's probably so much that people know already that's not being implemented across the world. And since we have an audience with the whole world, what are your thoughts about cross-fertilizing some of these agricultural advancements?
Cross-fertilizing. Are we talking about a platform for people to exchange ideas?
Exactly.
Okay, I think
sharing ideas.
That's exactly what we need. We need to create our own global support group here more and bring it to everybody. If you're plant-based, if you're looking for, into the causes for climate change, if you're looking to end world hunger, we are all on one platform, indirectly working for the same cause, and that is to end world hunger. But in ending world hunger, we have a cleaner environment, we have a healthier world, we are more inclusive of our fellow human beings and living a a morally correct way of life.
Wonderful. We have a question on federal subsidies in the US for farmers. Any comments on that?
Absolutely. Well, the federal, I mean, we need to support our industries, plain and simple. So I think that certain industries will thrive, others may not. So if you look at the dairy industry, it's already been severely impacted by new consumer products. If you look at the soy industry, it's looking to triple in the next 15 years. So I think soy and corn have a bright future, and those subsidies, those crops, along with others like lentils, rice, barley, will become the number one crops to feed billions of people in the coming generations. And we want to be at the forefront of that. Now, the cost to that is that it uses our water, and our water is a precious commodity, and we need to protect our water because we're not doing a very good job of that currently. But as crops become more in demand, we won't just freely give them away to cattle industry. As water becomes more in demand, it won't just be given freely away. So just by this, when you start to factor in the true costs of what meat is, 14 pounds of grain to raise 1 pound of meat, it's just highly inefficient. Those inefficiencies will start to be reflected in the price, such that, again, less and less subsidies will be attributed to the meat markets.
Excellent. I don't see any, there's another more questions. Okay, I had to scroll down, sorry. Oh, one of my former students, Mike Endy, asks, how has COVID impacted this space, supply chains, et cetera?
Yeah, COVID's been very helpful in many regards. People are staying at home and wanting to, they want more variety in their diet. So all of my friends in the manufacturing world are crazy busy right now. And they're so busy keeping the shelves stocked that the consumer's now looking for new tastes. So they're trying more Indian food. They're trying more Asian flavors. They're trying more plant-based, so on and so forth. They're more attuned to their kids' diets as well. And they want to be good parents, and they want affordable, healthy foods for their kids. So there's become more demand that way as well. Unfortunately, as COVID's with us, I think there's an opportunity in 2021 to really lead in the plant-based, affordable kids' meals because of COVID that way.
Absolutely. So one of our conference sponsors, Dilip Merchandani from Rowan, asks, veganism seems to be a fast-growing habit. There is also a small movement of food that is not heat treated to preserve its full nutritional value. Your thoughts on their future?
So I can't speak on the science necessarily that way. Again, I like to default to history. In history, we would have bridged these periods of consuming some meat with consuming lots of vegetables, lots of grains and things of that nature. And that's just how it was before the Industrial Revolution. The thing is that will be a segment of the food industry. I think there's a lot of health benefits consuming raw foods, and I think that will become a part of our segment. But I have to say something here, that good, clean food should not be determined by what class you happen to live in. We have a moral obligation to produce good, clean, affordable food for even the least of us. So I would encourage all businesses in all industries to look at food availability from the top to the bottom.
Great. Thank you for answering all these questions. Anthony Bolito asks, with natural resources burning, seas rising, and global warming continuing to rear its ugly head, are you concerned with the agricultural impacts due to climate change?
Absolutely. We should all be concerned that way. And with the advent of green industries, fortunately, there's less environmental impact. We need to lessen our environmental impact, and that extends to any number of emissions, any number of pollutants winding up in our water, whether it be insecticide, whether it be phosphates from fertilizer, whether it be mercury and industrial waste and plastics in our oceans. You know, part of the global mission to feed 12 billion people, it doesn't just extend to food. It extends to reducing emissions. It extends to biodegradable packaging. It extends to natural farming and crop rotation so that we have less pollutants in our water. The more population we add to a country, any country, the more we're going to want to keep our fish on our coast. But as fish runs out, that commodity of fish for the US in the next 30 years will become even more valuable, even more expensive. And we're going to have real questions at that point. Do we sell it to the highest bidder? Or is that something we keep internally for our own population? You see, it's government's role to protect our population, but it's the individual, it's our culture here and elsewhere to determine what we do with our natural resources.
Very important issue for us to grapple with at the highest levels and throughout the students and faculty and everyone to consider. Linda Morris Kelly asks, do you have recipes for using foods that are currently underused and can be easily and responsibly grown? Part of the challenge we have and has shown up at local farmers markets is that people do not know how to prepare non-processed foods.
Yeah, cooking is a lost art. Cooking is, so yes, I do. We could spend hours talking about any number of things, but these foods are there for a reason because they have withstood the test of time. They are part of, if not our personal culture, they are a part of somebody's culture. And I use those as great sources of inspiration.
Wonderful. Arash asks the question, are there countries or states that can be used in terms of regulatory and institutional innovations that we can emulate here in the US?
Are there states or countries?
Countries or states. Like I mentioned, Costa Rica, for example.
Right. It's an interesting world out there. Northern Europeans seem to be doing a good job across the board. Canada seems to be doing a good job across the board. Where are the opportunities? There are opportunities all across Asia, particularly Southeast Asia. There's opportunities within the Middle East. There are huge opportunities in Africa and South America. You look at where the greatest, and I say those because I'm looking at where the greatest inefficiencies are now relative to the historic cultural needs of the population. Take India, for example, primarily a plant-based society. That has changed over several decades. So has pollution. India will have to grapple with cleaning up all of its industries, most likely reverting back to an agrarian society just to do that. And so I see that there being lots of opportunities there. Africa, will likely be the #1 economy in the world by 2050. Knowing that and what that has to what that means to us in keeping efficiencies in place says that there's a lot of opportunity there. But we need regulation. Unfortunately, there are other countries in Southeast Asia where they make great products, but it is not regulated by the government. It's by multinational companies coming in saying we have to have these regulations in place. It's because they sell it in Europe, the UK, and the United States. But the best foods made within these parts of the world are being shipped out. And the worst of what's made there is being left for the people because there's no regulation in place whatsoever. So as we look internally at how do we protect our own natural resources and create greener and greener industries, we need to also join a global community that we can all kind of level up and all have the same types of regulations in place so that we're all operating from a level playing field.
Well, this is incredibly inspiring. We have probably 20 more questions that unfortunately we don't have time to answer right now. So what I'm going to suggest is that we send you these questions and maybe you can look at some of them and answer some of them, and we'll post
Certainly.
really great questions on all sorts of things. Kiss the ground and soil and unbelievable, on lots of great questions. I want to thank you enormously for your contribution to our conference, and we really appreciate it. Also, remind everybody on your Int'l app, there's a Meatless Mondays competition. Please be sure to check that out with a video of James, along with a recipe that he created just for us. You can try it out and submit to have a one-on-one interview with James. Very exciting. So thank you again. You've been fabulous, and we're totally inspired and want to support your vision of feeding all the people in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye, Dina.
Bye-bye.
Bye.